Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Jacques Loeb Center for the History and Philosophy of Science, I would like to welcome you all to this workshop, Impact of the Primacy of Applied Science and Technology over Basic Science since the late 20th century and in the era of big data and AI. I think that the interplay between applied and basic science is fascinating. I would like to read something which was written as a reservation for a paper published in Nature. Nature is not the best journal, but it is okay journal, okay? So they published a paper, interferometric single-shot parity, and I think people in the industry, maybe Microsoft, were pushing to publish this paper. And then, despite the fact that the paper was published, the referees had serious reservations. So they had to add this at the bottom of the paper. Due to the above reasons, I am firmly convinced that this work should not be published in Nature or any other high visibility journal. A device that can't be ruled out to have Majorna physics but has other explanations too, and so on and so on. So it is clear that in this case there was dominance of applied science over basic science. If in the past we encountered only basic science in high impact journals such as Nature, Science, and so on, nowadays we see that applied science is taking over. And we need to be aware of the risks. So I would like to make it clear I'm not against applied science. But in order to do good applied science, you need to be a good scientist. You need to rely on basic science. And we can also learn from applied science. In basic science, and Amir Sagi will talk about it later on today.
The paper was basic science.
The paper?
There is no technology.
Okay, so it's not
a
Microsoft?
basic science paper to show topological computation, anions and stuff like that. This is very basic science.
And who published it?
Nature. But
Nature.
Basic science.
Okay. So if I made a mistake, I take responsibility for it. I will be happy
The
to
pressure
discuss it.
was not.
Okay. Okay. So I would like to invite Professor Chaim Hames, Director of the University, to say some opening remarks.
So, good morning everyone, and I hope you can hear me in the back.
There's a microphone.
No, it's okay to put the microphone. I can just by. First of all,
you can ask them Ron to come closer.
We hear you perfectly. First of all, I'd like to thank Professor Ute Deichmann for a continual interest and development of topics which and workshops which will are of interest and of topical interest as well, because I'm not. You're all going to talk about the topic itself, so I won't address that. But just yesterday in the New York Times, I don't know whether you saw 1,900 members of the American Academy of Science signed or published a document addressed to the American people, where they talked about the fact that, I'm summing it up, in that any attempt to narrow what's called academic freedom, right, which, and they're very worried this is indeed happening in the United States of America, with the current new regime, will take America, will stop or will lead to the fact that America will no longer be a world leader, and best research and everything else will not happen in America, and other countries will take advantage of that, of course, and leave America back, and the damage could take decades to repair. I read that letter, and I thought to myself that it easily could be translated to what's happening here, and what could happen here in Israel as well. And I think that, as we all know, right, without academic freedom, Okay? There is no basic science. There might be applied science because we might be told, right, what we have to do by those who fund us. The government, right, funds us, and right, they might start to tell us what we can and what we can't research, what we can and what we can't think about. And of course, we know that basic science is so incredibly important for a strong, vibrant, intellectual, academic community. Right? So I think the topic itself is very, very current, and I think that and very, very important for us as we look forward, as we continue to strengthen and work towards a very strong and vibrant academic community here at Ben Gurion University, and hopefully in Israel in general. So I hope today is very beneficial. I'm really sorry that I won't be able to stay. That's a rector's lot. I don't know whether any of you know Gilbert and Sullivan. I keep saying this. Gilbert and Sullivan were an English duo who wrote some wonderful operettas, and in one of them they have a song about a policeman, and it talks about the policeman's lot is not a happy one. And I keep changing that for the word rector. Yeah, a rector's lot is not a happy one, right? And I get to miss out on very exciting and interesting discussions. So I hope you have a great day, and I'm sorry I won't be here to hear it, but I know Ute will fill me in on if there's anything she thinks that I should know about. So thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you, Chaim. I would like to invite Professor Gabriel Lemcoff, the Dean of the Faculty of Natural Sciences, to say some opening remarks, and he will give a presentation as well.
Yeah, so I say everything that Chaim said, I also say. Except that maybe the dean's lot is a bit happier than the rector's lot, because I can at least stay at the beginning. So, no, Ute, what you're doing in the university is great, and thank you and all the members of the Jack Loeb Center, of course, for organizing these things and maybe making us think about these things that are truly important to improve science. Right? This is what we're here to do, after all. This is the university, and yeah, I would be happier if we would have more researchers, but it takes time, you know. Yeah, so I prepare a short speech about the influence of industry and applied sciences over fundamental basic science from my perspective, chemistry perspective. I will take off my glasses. The relationship between industry and fundamental chemistry research has profoundly shaped scientific progress. Industrial involvement has directed significant resources toward molecular understanding with practical applications, while simultaneously altering research priorities. Major advances in synthetic methodologies often emerge from industrial laboratories seeking efficient manufacturing processes. For example, the pharmaceutical companies developing reactions, conditions, and catalytic systems that academic chemists explore later. Similarly, the petrochemical industry needs innovations in analytical instrumentation that benefit the entire field. For those of you who know a little bit about chemistry, like gas chromatography was invented by the petrochemical industry, and we use it to advance basic research today. Industry funding has concentrated research efforts on certain elements and reactions. Transition metal chemistry expanded rapidly when catalysts became industrially available. Rare earth element research accelerated when their electronic properties found commercial applications. And this selective emphasis has advanced some areas, although leaving others less thoroughly explored. And the timeline of fundamental chemical research has changed. Industrial partnerships often compress discovery to application cycles, sometimes bypassing complete mechanistic understanding in favor of functional outcomes. This pragmatic approach can yield valuable materials and processes, but may leave theoretical gaps. Academic industrial partnerships in chemistry have grown increasingly important as instrumentations and material costs rise. These collaborations provide essential resources while introducing application-oriented perspectives to fundamental questions. The question facing chemistry today isn't whether industry should influence basic research, but how to maintain a positive balance between immediate utility and foundational understanding. And I agree with this. I didn't write it, of course. It's on AI, so it's like, it's just so that you understand how powerful AI is becoming. It can write these type of introductions. And there it's really spot on, right? It's very good. So you don't have to do it anymore. It saves time. So this is another good aspect of AI. But I think, I don't know if you heard what I said, but it's lacking a little bit of heart, right? Heart, like feeling, you know? I thought it was a little bit abstract.
Synthetic.
Detached.
Synthetic.
Yeah, detached. AI. Yeah, AI, exactly. But what it said was very true. I agree with it. It's not, I couldn't have written it better. Anyways, my talk was not made by AI. It will be a personal perspective, but I will go back to this influence of AI and how it's changing the way we do research today also. So I'm sure we will have a great day. As Chaim said, I will also not be able to be the whole day, but at least part of it I will be. So that's what happens. I'm the dean and then the rector. So anyways, enjoy. Thank you again, Ute.
Thank you, Gabi. I promise that I will be here for the entire day. Okay. So next I would like to invite Professor Ute Deichmann, the director of the Jack Laub Center, to say some greetings.
Yeah, hello. I will also be here the whole day. I'm neither dean nor whatever functionary. Gabi, I was very happy that you could agree with what AI writes. I will later give to my lecture an example of write completely nonsense.
Yeah, I wouldn't have read it if I didn't agree with it.
Yes. No. Sometimes one has to learn from mistakes. Anyhow, so Chaim, Gabi, dear rector, dear dean, and dear colleagues and friends. Yeah, I would also, as a director of the Loeb Center, I would like to welcome you here. And I want to say that the idea for this workshop came from a reading club. That means the Loeb Center members are having here every year. And so this reminds of the idea of the unity of teaching and research that was once the goal of the university. And anyhow, it's no longer like that. So in this reading club, we read two papers, both by Paul Forman, who showed first that the general culture of a country, and this was in that case Weimar Germany, can impact the acceptance and interpretation of a basic science, in this case quantum mechanics. And this question is certainly relevant here also today. And he quoted a young physicist, Gustav Mie, who said in 1925, "It is interesting to observe that even in physics, a discipline rigorously bound to the results of experiment is led into paths which run perfectly parallel to the paths of the intellectual movements in other areas of modern life." Secondly, Forman wrote about the shift in focus from basic research to applied research and its courses. We will hear about this a lot, and I will not say anything about that now. And he related this reversal of primacy to the change of modernity with its high valuation of science as a model of progress through its methods and emphasis on methods, to postmodernity, which is emphasis on ends or purposes. And this topic seemed so relevant that I made it a workshop topic. A closer look at the reasons for the shift in primacy towards applied sciences shows that postmodernism was not the only one, of course. The utilitarian spirit concerning science became a powerful ideology already in the early Soviet Union, where the ideologue Bukharin promoted the view that science is the product of the demands of the time for technical results. I will come back to that in my lecture. And agronomist Lysenko, who was responsible for the destruction of genetics in this country, a decade later derided pure science as bourgeois, holding instead a science which fails to give practical workers a clear perspective and confidence that they can achieve practical aims does not deserve to be called science. Since Lysenko's erroneous theories were derived from the likewise erroneous theories of the very successful plant breeders, so you can be practically successful but completely wrong in theory. Michael Polanyi, who was a physical chemist who turned to philosopher of science later on, concluded that almost every major systematic error which has deluded men for thousands of years relied on practical experiences. And he did not believe that basic science would always be continued for the sake of its practical advantage. And he hoped it will be continued for other reasons. However, since the late 20th century, that Gabriel already indicated, capitalism that drives the utilitarian spirit in science. James Watson, one of the discoverers of the double helix, describes this transition in biology as a shift from the old academic ethos of science to a new mindset. He wrote, traditionally in academic biology, all that matters was precedence. Who made the discovery first? One was rewarded in kudos. I looked it up, it's reputation, not in cash. With the advent of biotechnology, all that changed. Israeli universities were, from the beginning, oriented towards practical goals, responding to the circumstances, of course, though later their scope broadened, as we see today. And the statement of Einstein in 1950 about Israeli universities seems naive, but maybe still relevant today, not only for Israel. I quote, I can well envisage the university becoming increasingly important, not only for the new state of Israel, but also for the Jews throughout the world. But if it is indeed to become so, then its spirit must keep pace with the greatness of the task. In other words, our highest ideal must be the acquisition and diffusion of knowledge. Only then we can create those permanent conditions in which practical achievements can also flourish and bring benefits to the country. A narrow utilitarian spirit is as dangerous as is one which places undue emphasis on nationalism or on the purely formalistic observance of religious doctrines. But today, science is, or seems at least to be, primarily understood as applied science everywhere, as in Germany, which Sophie will talk about later. The goals, such as scientific research should lead to practical benefits for society, closely resemble those of the communist ideologues in the 1930s and 40s. At least for now, basic research continues to be funded as well. And the Nobel institutions until now award pure and applied research. And concerning the chemistry prize, Daniel here has found out that it was nearly half and half in the last 20 years. And as we will later hear, there is also basic science at BGU. I have no time. I should finish 10:02, right? So I will leave the AI out. Anyhow, so coming to the end, we will discuss the topic of the changing primacy from different scientific perspectives. Chemistry is very prevalent here. Computer science, physics, the life sciences, and history of science, where we have 3 speakers at least. We will hear lectures and a roundtable discussion about personal experiences of collaborations with industry, beneficial impacts and dangers of this collaboration for basic research, and the importance of basic science, the changing role of the university, and the impact of AI. I mentioned just 2 lectures, one by Tony Travis near the end about the origin of the alliance of laboratory and industry already in 19th century chemistry, where chemists were the first to leave the ivory tower of only basic science. And the other lecture I want to mention is by Jonathan Kremner, who was once a student here. He is now a researcher at MIT, and he chose the fascinating title, Back to the Ivory Tower. I thank Sophie Kohler for the overall organization. Thank you, Sophie. And I thank Ofer for his constant advice and also for chairing the lectures. Sebastian, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Kossuth?
Don't worry, nobody knows.
Tell me.
Kossuth.
Kossuth. Good. No,
Spanish.
yeah, I know, but I don't know Spanish. Kosuch for his fruitful suggestions and his help in organizing this beautiful hall. I thank Desiree Meloun, she's up there, for the technical administration, posters and catering. She did a great job, I think. Also thank Daniel Sommer for his support before and during the meeting, and my thanks go to Daniel Lachish, who kindly agreed to film this event. Thank you. I thank you all for agreeing to contribute to our workshop, even if you don't stay here for the time. Okay, thank you.
We will ask AI to make us nicer. The video editing task of AI will do a great job. So I'm happy to open the first session about the introduction of basic and applied science, and to invite Professor Amir Sagi from the Department of Life Sciences to tell us about the interplay between basic and applied science from his own experience. Welcome.